The Idea Start podcast explores all things innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship. Co-created by Idea Start and the Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning. Join us to move your ideas to impact with the University of Manitoba community.
Welcome, Idea Starters. Welcome back to Season 2 of the Idea Start podcast. Today, Rajiv and I are joined by Ray and Jackie Hope. Jackie is a two-time U of M alum from the Asper School of Business and also from education, and she now works here at the university. Her husband also studied here in the Faculty of Science and now works in a senior IT role. And together, they are Midlife Mountaineer. And this incredibly adventurous and entrepreneurial couple took up mountain climbing, ice climbing, and also refined their craft in filmmaking. And during COVID, they put those things together and created a film called Prairie Ice Farmers. And this film was featured at the Vancouver Mountain International Film Festival, as well as a film festival in Slovakia. And that led them to create a short series for Bell Fibe TV1. And this series is profiling folks who are challenging the stereotypes of aging and redefining what it means to be, quote, over the hill. In fact, Ray and Jackie also profile themselves in this series that's called Midlife Mavericks. We have so much to learn from this couple. Let's start the conversation. Ray and Jackie Hope, welcome to the Idea Start podcast. We are so happy to have you both here today and can't wait for this conversation.
Thank you so much for inviting us today. We're very honored to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for taking out time and coming to our podcast. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Yes.
So I think that I think it'd be best maybe if we just start from the beginning, and maybe you could share with our audience about how you got into filmmaking initially. Where did that come from?
Ray, do you want to take a stab?
So a couple different roads probably. There's lots of roads that are leading you somewhere. Mm-hmm. But the biggest, I think, impact was about, say, 14 years ago, we started making a year in review video for our family. And so we get together every Christmas, and we wanted to be able to show all the pictures of things that happened during that year. So we asked the family to submit pictures to us. We put it together, put some music together with it, and then it probably lasted maybe 10 minutes, initially. And then over the years, we started getting more elaborate with it. I ended up getting actual editing software, started getting some videos in there. And it just, after 14 years, it's become almost a full production of video and pictures still. Along the way, we had a couple weddings in the family. And so we did the same thing. We said, okay, we're going to put together something for that wedding. And it was video, a combination of video of the wedding itself. And then we did interviews before the wedding. And so, again, it became more like almost documentary style with some fun stuff in it. And we just realized we like doing this. And, where can we take this next? Yeah. As we started climbing, both rock climbing, ice climbing, and mountaineering about 10 years ago, we were amazed by all the people around us who were doing that, who are our age or older. And we already thought because we were in our 50s, we thought we're kind of, maybe more advanced, but we weren't. We were kind of right in a good mix. But we were so inspired by the stories of all these people around us who were doing this at a pretty high level. And we thought we should tell these stories. And we thought, well, why don't we do that using storytelling through video or film? So we started putting together a plan for that. And the first one we did was called Prairie Ice Farmers. And it's a video that tells the story of ice farming in the prairies, which is we have a tower in downtown St. Boniface, and then we have a cliff out near Kenora where we pump water onto those structures until it's thick enough that we can climb it, and then people climb it all winter long. And so we thought we have to tell that story.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And we do that today. So.
Okay. That's how it works in the prairies.
Yes. Yeah, you got to make it happen. That's entrepreneurship.
So on the filmmaking side, you're all self-taught.
Yes. So I have a technical background. I've been in IT since the first PCs came out. So I'm dating myself a little bit. So back in the 80s, the first PCs came out. And so we started making, we had a family business. We made software for dentists and car dealerships. And so I've been doing that since the 80s. And then so along the way, audio editing came out, and I got into that. I'm a musician. Both Jackie and I are musicians. And so I got into that a little bit, and then eventually film caught up. Film is more challenging for computers, but today they're not, but back then it was. Yeah. But as that became more of a reality, got into that a little bit, and then obviously over the years got more into it. But I had that technology background. What I didn't have was how to do camera work, how to do audio and lighting and things like that. So that's been a really good learning opportunity for me over the last few years. When I started off, I couldn't get focus right at all. I would come home, think I nailed everything. I'd look at it and say, it's no good. Have to go back and do reshoots. Eventually, I got that figured out. Audio, same thing. I'd have the noise floor really high, lots of scratching sounds, things like that. So, and then lighting, same thing. So just learned it, watch YouTube videos, asked others. AI helps now. ChatGPT tells me everything I can do better.
We really started with our iPhones.
Yeah.
We started with our iPhones, and then during the pandemic, we had all of this time. So we thought, well, let's learn something new. And so we started investing in equipment. We thought, well, this is something I think we'd like to pursue, and started investing in equipment. And Ray has this uncanny ability to become he has this uncanny ability to become immersed in something and learn it very quickly. Mm-hmm. So the comments that we've received on the series are that this is not a beginner filmmaker that is doing this footage. And he's just immersed himself in it. And he became very accomplished very quickly.
Well,
that's a great trait to have for an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if the creative skills that you need to come up with something like this, is it different being a musician and a filmmaker?
Good question. So the thing I found the most challenging for filmmaking is the storytelling aspect of it. Because really that doesn't matter if you're writing it or singing it or showing it on film. And so for documentary filmmaking, what we were really surprised about is we thought we knew what the story was going to be at the beginning. We knew the stories generally speaking. But as we got through the interviews and really learned about the overall story, it started to shift around, and it became challenging. Like, how do you tell this? And if you think of a story arc, like the beginning, middle, end, or you think about a dramatic arc of some kind, how do you do that so it's an interesting story? There's, through a lot of the research I did, there's a difference between a slap and a scream versus a scream and then a slap. Two different stories with the same things happening, told in different order, right? And so, how do you?
Or screaming
and we don't have any of that in our episodes. Yeah, but but it's like you can tell a story differently with the very same facts, and it comes off differently. And so that was challenging. How to then that to me is half of the artistic stuff. The other is how do you create an visual representation of something in a really, interesting way. That part, I think we have lots of good examples, but I had ideas. I like using the sun. I like, creating really interesting shots. So I just experimented with that and came up with things that I thought worked well. A lot of it is just using technology, just making whether it's, we don't use a lot of AI right now, but we probably will in the future, but just using the tools to really create visual effects that you think are interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I think Ray too, with his approach, when we're shooting a scene, he's always looking at the shot is how can I do something more interesting with this? Like rather than just a static shot of a kayak going by, how can I move this scene? How can I Am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah, always looking. In fact, we attended a workshop through Film Training Manitoba, and they had the director of photography from one of the Star Wars movies. And it was fantastic. Steve Yedelin. And he talked about when you're following a shot, don't just follow the person if they're walking or the kayak if it's floating by. Maybe let it enter the shot and then follow it, and maybe let it even drift out of the shot. And that's more interesting than just following a canoe or a kayak. And so on the film Prairie Ice Farmers, the very last thing we put in there, was the opening shot, actually. And we literally followed his advice. So I get to say that I actually implemented something from Star Wars, from the director of photography, which was to let a it was someone on a quad, ATV, come into the shot on snow with his dog chasing around him and then leave the shot. And while we did that, we had the opening title credit. And so I would have never done that. Yeah. A powerful shot, and you learn from the masters.
Right. Okay, so if that's the approach, like a little bit of mentorship, lots of practice, the thing I think about is that takes time.
Yes.
And so how have you found managing, developing these skills and actually finishing the projects while also
Learning.
Well, and also having your full-time jobs, like, yeah, how have you
I think
managed
that's
that
the
piece?
question that will be on the top of the mind for most people, right?
Yeah. And, we have, throughout our project, we've had deliverable dates that we needed to make with the broadcaster. And there are times that are busier than others. I would say probably the last 4 or 5 months of our production were pretty intense. It was early mornings, evenings, weekends, plus working all day. But all of those activities are so deeply tied to memories of the filming that we did. So every scene in each of the episodes, when I watch it, I'm placed back in that moment when we were there filming or we were doing a reenactment. And I think there's a passion that comes along with that we're able to, we have to be persistent. We have to push through a lot of discomfort. And the reality is when you're learning something new and working on a project like this, there is time that you have to take to learn, how to submit a cue sheet to SOCAN for music, and all of those things take time. But you just figure it out. We somehow time appears.
Yeah.
I guess when you're following your passion, it's not as straining as doing a job. Is that true?
It is. They say, there's a saying: if you find something you love doing, you'll never have to work a day in your life.
Exactly.
And that is true. Now, at the same time, it can get to you. Like the longer that goes on, so you really have to try to find ways to break it up because it can get to you. But we actually. In our episode, because in Midlife Mavericks, which is a series that we created, one of the episodes is on Jackie and me. And in that episode,
It's a great one.
Thank you. What didn't make the cut into there is we did shoot it and get interviews of it, and this is a true story. Jackie she went out one day on a Saturday, and I was doing editing. She comes home at the end of the day, and this is winter time, so it gets dark early, and it was about 4:30 or so. And she comes in and she looks at me and says, "Why are you sitting here with all the lights off?" And so I started the day with it was daytime, and the lights were off because it was daytime, and I didn't even notice that I'm sitting there in the dark, and all I have is the glow of my computer on me. And Jackie says, "What are you doing?" And I just kind of looked up in this, a bit of a stupor. Yeah, and but I was so immersed in it, and so you do get immersed. Like I'm down to the point where I'm literally cutting from an A shot to a B shot, and I'm looking at where the eyes are pointed to make sure they're consistent, so the cut doesn't look weird, right? Because sometimes I'm cutting from 2 different shots, and I want there to be no perception that they were 2 different shots, that I just changed camera angles where I actually were bringing 2 things together because someone coughed, let's say. And so you're down to that level where you're looking at one frame, the next, and you're backing things up and you're cutting it, and you're at that level of precision. And so everything around you just disappears. Time disappears. Like she was gone for 8 hours, and I probably didn't feel that it was 8 hours at all. And so you do get immersed. And when you love it, time just flies by. You do feel the deadline. And it's not the time you're spending, because I spent most evenings and weekends. It's that you want to get X amount done, and you just don't know how you're going to do it in the amount of time that you have because of that deadline. Deadlines are good. We'll never be ready for the deadline. We'll never be happy with exactly what we put together. But deadlines drove us to get something out the door, which I think is really important, especially as an entrepreneur.
Interesting. So
Absolutely.
deadlines, passion, but also I'm hearing like also the mastery part of it, right? That to sustain you, like when you're doing good work,
Yeah.
and you're happy with that detail work. That's
And the the experience of sharing the art with people and being there, we had screenings for cast and crew for both our short film and the series. And to sit there and watch the reactions in real time is just, it's such an amazing experience. And sometimes you just hold on to that dream of that moment when things get really tough. And you know what? We're really fortunate in that we both have jobs that we love.
Right.
And then this is something that we can further dive into that creative side that we have, that it's something that I think we both have to do.
Yeah,
We're compelled to do it. So this is a great outlet for us.
That's amazing. Actually, you could have done probably any series, any kind of series that you wanted. How could you? I mean, how did you pick up on Midlife Mavericks?
It's interesting. And so we wanted to include some of this, but we couldn't because of just licensing. But we originally, when we started climbing, we were joking how our memories of people our age, when we were younger though, so our grandparents, they sat on a Barca lounger and watched like All in the Family, and in fact, the people in All in the Family sat there and watched TV, and they had their TV dinners like we were growing up. That's what our vision of being in our 50s was, that you sat around watching TV, yelling at the TV or whatever. And we had those memories. But when we looked around, that's not what people were doing. And people in their, like they say 50 is the new 30 or whatever it is, but that's not what we were seeing. And we said, we need to kind of reframe that. So we came up with the tagline, redefining what's over the hill. Mm-hmm. And so we thought, and we started with the website originally, and we thought, how do we expand on this? And we thought, let's start telling stories through written word as well, but we thought, let's do it through video.
Okay, so in higher education, right, we're often working with maybe some younger students, and we see a focus, right, on this, like getting it right when they're young, right, wanting to do the right program, lots of pressure to make big decisions, and yet you're learning lessons from folks who have reinvented themselves. Yeah. So what are some of those lessons? Like, what would you share with students now?
I was the same way. When I was a student, I thought, that first job was going to set the tone for my life. And I would, climb through the ranks of a company and get to the top. But when I look at my life now, it's been being open to saying yes to opportunities. Mm-hmm. I've changed not only jobs, but I've changed careers 4 or 5 times. Throughout my career now. And each of these changes took me on new adventures. One of them took me overseas. I was able to live in Japan for 5 years and follow my music dreams there. And each one taught me new skills that have now come together at this point in my life. And I think all of those experiences have made me who I am now. And I think for students that are in those early days is take advantage of detours and not to be so focused on that one goal. I understand, we need to make a living. We want to do work that's meaningful. We want to be well compensated, but don't let those opportunities go by without exploring them a little bit. And you might be surprised by what you find.
Yeah, the one thing I've just learned through my life is one of the best ways to get it right is to get it wrong before that, right? In fact, a number of times, I used to be a software developer, and you didn't just write code perfectly on the first try. Like you did it and you tried, no, that's not right. And eventually you figure out the best way. Right. They say Edison took 2,000 tries to make a light bulb. Yeah. And he said, well, they asked him, well, that must have been a lot of failures. How did you feel after? He said, I didn't have failures. I successfully found 2,000 ways not to make a light bulb. But I've also found successfully a way to make a light bulb that works. And so when you're approaching things, we came in, it's kind of hard when you're an older adult starting something new to be a beginner again, to come in and you feel like the we're not the fastest people climbing than the people around us who are in their 20s, So we're coming into something, while you feel like you should be this sage person in some ways, you're not. You're coming in, starting over again. That can be hard. But what we do bring is that lifetime of experience that we can apply. And a lot of it is transferable across many things. We have the confidence, and yet you just have to be okay making mistakes, getting it wrong. So if I were to tell myself when I started off, I think I'd be telling myself, like, be okay getting it wrong. Don't hide your failures, because then people can't help you fix them and get it right because they want to. And I just know that those are the types of things when we were younger that we were doing. And if they're still doing that today, hopefully they've learned some of the lessons that we've learned.
Yeah, I think that's actually really interesting connection to entrepreneurship as well. Like we use some of those same kind of phrases, right? Like fail fast, or sometimes the kind of an acronym of FAIL is like first attempt in learning, as just ways to reframe.
That's so true. Yeah. I mean, there is no entrepreneur who has succeeded without failing, right?
Yeah.
So that comes with the territory, I guess.
It does. And so for filmmaking too, like you're going to try shots. You're going to come home, find your focus wasn't good. So now you need to work on that. So go back, work on that, and eventually you will get it. Yeah, you have to trust. We learned one thing that we learned mountain climbing, because we were not great with exposure, which is you're up really high, and if you slip, you're going for a really long ride. And so someone told us, asked, what are you worried about? And we said, well, we're worried about that we're going to slip. He said, well, trust two things. One, that you're going to be able to do it. And even when you don't, you're going to be able to recover. And so, and it's the same thing in business. You just have to trust that even if you don't get it right on the first try, you're going to figure it out. It's just, you have to believe in yourself and do that. And that's what we found with film. And you find a way.
And that saying carried us through some hard times in mountaineering physically, just learning to trust yourself that you're going to recover. And it's carried us through some difficult times during filmmaking too, when we thought, oh my gosh, we're not going to make it. And but we know, like, our bodies want to be in balance, but they want to recover. And so we just trust that.
Oh, this is great. Wonderful. Yeah. Actually, you are in that sense mavericks yourselves, right? Do you see yourselves as mavericks?
It's difficult to call ourselves mavericks. When we did our episode, well, I guess we do call ourselves the OG.
But you were asking about being a maverick, and what's interesting, because we have a hard time seeing ourselves as mavericks, But the thing is, we found that to be true with all of our mavericks that we filmed. Right. Every one of them didn't think they were doing something extraordinary at all. And so Bill, who flies the biplane, and he crashed it, and he recovered, he fixed it up and flew it again. And I said, well, Bill, how many people do you think even fly a plane? Let's start there. And so, percentage of Canadians, let's say. And of those many people, how many do you think are flying a biplane? And of that many people, how many do you think have crashed it and walked away? So you're in a small, really
Very
elite
small.
group, but they don't see it. They do not see it. And we didn't either.
Interesting. And when we said it to him, it was almost like, you could see the light bulb above his head, like, oh, yes, maybe.
So you're in your mind, in that sense, would you say much younger than people look at you from outside and say, okay, they're probably in their midlife, but you're not thinking of that as much. Are you just following your passion? Are there any common traits at all between all these mavericks?
A good question. I don't know that we asked them. I know they're doing things that are maybe atypical. Say Sandra, she bikes everywhere. She paddleboards. She really pushing it. She's no limits. And I think what we found, what I think that we've probably noticed ourselves, is your body does remind you how old you are when you forget. But
mystery pains.
Yeah. But it doesn't stop us, and so you push through it, and you keep going, and you're going to do it as long as you can do it. Like at some point, either your interest will change or your body will just say, I can't do this anymore. But we haven't reached that yet. So,
and persistence, persistence through challenges, persistence through injuries, and once in many of our stories, so Andrew connected with this dream he had to do an art show. Yeah. So he said, I'm going to do this before I turn 50. Bill wanted to he was in his late 50s, and he finally had the time and to buy and the finances to buy this plane and refurbish it. And his son was like, well, what are you waiting for? And so once they set their eye on that goal, they went for it, and there was nothing that was going to stop them, even though they came into some roadblocks at times.
That's amazing, I guess. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's good. I think one of the things that makes conversation with you so interesting is that there's this filmmaking, there's the topic of what your films have been about, but then one of the things we're also interested is your experience kind of as business owners, and this juxtaposition of filmmaking as art and business, and wonder if there's anything you could share with our audience about that process.
I mean, when did you decide, let's start with that you want to be entrepreneurs now?
Well, we started Midlife Mountaineer. We started the company about 3 years ago, and we were using the company to pursue our short film, Prairie Ice Farmers. But we were doing it very part-time at the time. And Midlife Mavericks was the first real project, large project that we had funded. And so I was working full-time on the business at that point. Ray was still working full-time at Qualico. But I was working full-time to set the foundations for the business. So I did a lot of the all of the things you need to do to set up your accounting system, get your insurance in place, and also all of the things that we needed there. Working with our broadcaster, staying in regular contact with them. So all of those types of things. So having the time for me to work on that, I think, was helpful. And then Ray took on more of the technical roles, and I was more on the production side.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And I think the transition, so when we started off, it was more of an interest, not as a business, but as an interest. Right. And then with 5TV1, that kind of transition turned it into more of a entrepreneurial kind of endeavor, but we don't want to let go of the artistic. Like sometimes people will say, I don't want to compromise my art because of business. I don't want to put out something that's popular that I think is garbage, right? Just so I can turn a buck. And so there's a balance there, and I think it's different for everybody. So I think you'll have some individuals or companies who they're production companies, and they get projects that they believe in, and they have enough coming their way that they can select them. Yeah. For those that don't, they have to take ones that maybe they're not as excited about, but they need to get something going. For us, I think we're in a different category because we're not relying this as our source of income. We're very happy in our current jobs, but we do see at some point when we do retire, this could be something that we could do as a semi-retirement thing that is something that produces as a more of a production company. But I think it'll still always be project-based. I have a feeling a lot of production companies are that way. They either get set up for literally a production and they're done. But I think we'll be more that type of entrepreneur where we'll seek out productions, a project, get funding for it, and then pursue it and finish it and move on to the next one.
And the great thing about, we've been through the process once now of doing this series. And so we feel like we have the ability to take on something larger now because we know, okay, these are the things that we can contract out, that we don't need to do everything ourselves.
I see.
And so we are able to, work full time, but still take on larger projects so we can build our portfolio.
So I guess the production side of it is now getting better and better, and learning how to manage the project. So it's evolved from being something creative, a passion, to a side gig, and maybe now a post-retirement plan where you might do something larger.
And in the meantime, we're entering the festivals where we were able to screen our first film at the Vancouver International Mountain Film Festival, which was surreal. Wow. And then we were able to screen it also at the Horia Mesto Mountain Film Festival in Bratislava, Slovakia. So we were able to go there and show the film.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and sounds like exotic locations.
Yes.
In your episode, I liked the way you had framed it about how you said to Jackie, I think I want to go watch a movie.
There's a movie I want to see.
Vancouver. Yeah, so we've had just amazing experiences like that, and so we're hoping that will continue. We'll enter the festivals, and we want to keep very active in the film world, but also keep very active in our professional lives too, because both are really rewarding for us.
Yeah.
We do, with Midlife Mavericks, we do believe it could have a larger future. We think it's a really interesting time in the world where the number of people that are at that age, there's a lot of stories out there that could be told, and we think we're scratching the surface, and we think it could really go bigger than that. So we're hoping we can make that happen. That's something we're going to pursue. We have other project ideas as well. We have 2 ideas, one for a drama series and one for a drama short. Fictional film that we'd like to look at. So we're,
You heard it here first.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's where, I'd like to say that, local organizations like On-Screen Manitoba, Film Training Manitoba have been super helpful for us. When we first started, after we did our first film, and we were so pumped about this, and we thought, okay, what's next? So we built a pitch deck for a massive project that was a dramatic series, and so we took that to On-Screen Manitoba, and they were so kind, but they were able to kind of pull us back to, okay, this is awesome, but let's work on building your portfolio so that those producers are going to see that you have a track record of success before you do the big production. So that was a really good lesson for us. And then they introduced us to who we needed to meet to make it happen. And they've been incredible. All the organizations here in Winnipeg have been fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think a lot of our viewers who might have interest would really welcome this news. I mean, it's so underplayed, the supports that we have here in Manitoba. Most people are not aware, they don't know where to go, but this is an amazing story in itself.
But also the nature of the advice is kind of core to entrepreneurial thinking, and that's about validating smaller things before we get to really big things. And that's how we kind of de-risk the way we think about entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's always important, especially thinking broadly as an entrepreneur, but even as a filmmaker, is you have to find your North Star. You have to really be clear on that. Because you're gonna have to change direction constantly to get to it along the way, and you have to make stuff up and abandon stuff along the way. But if you don't have that new North Star, you're just kind of rudderless, in an ocean. And so you have to develop that, and then you have to develop, the stick-to-itiveness or that drive to get you there, and others, because at some point you're going to probably rely on others to help get you there too, and you have to be able to orient them to the same North Star. And so, and we've both been entrepreneurs in our past, and we know what it's like, to not only be able to drive yourself, but to keep others going and keep them inspired along the way as well.
That's right, yeah. It must have been, and most of this journey is self-funded, am I right?
Correct, yeah.
Yes, our first film was entirely self-funded.
Wow, okay.
And then we worked with 5TV1 on the series.
That's great.
Yeah, that was very exciting news.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure, yeah. And who's got the control over the finances? Both of you like managing the money part. A lot of people find that challenging, I love following my passion, but they don't have a clue how to manage the books.
Jackie does that.
I do that, but I think we both have that ability. We've both managed pretty significant budgets throughout our careers, so that has been that's been helpful. But and this is not our first round at business ownership either. We did consulting for many years, so those were just skills I've just moved into the new business.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Are there any other kind of transferable skills you would point to from your professional jobs that have been helpful in this process?
Yeah, project management for me. So I've been a certified project manager for years and managed lots of large projects. So that I think is very transferable. The actual makeup of a film project is different, but it's very similar.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think for me, communications has probably been the biggest skill that I've brought to the table here. I've been a professional writer in my various careers that I've had, and for about 20 years. And so now it's just a different form of writing. It's press releases, it's script writing, it's pitch decks, and also in speaking. With various stakeholders and writing for particular audiences. So those, I would say that's the biggest skill that I've brought forward into this business.
And I wouldn't call it a skill, but confidence. So like one of the traits, if, Jack and I joke, if we did this when we were in our 20s, we were not confident at all. We would not have approached anybody to even talk about it.
And the idea of approaching a broadcaster in my 20s would have scared me to death. I would have done it, but it would have been a different approach.
Whereas now we're very confident. Like we can anticipate what the questions are going to be. Like we've been around the block enough that there's not as much that's surprising to us. And even for the things that are surprising, it's a variation of something we've already seen before. So it really does help.
Yeah.
So I guess being a midlife maverick has its pros.
It does. Yeah. We're slow in some ways, but fast in others. Yeah.
Despite the mystery pains.
Yeah, despite the mystery pains, absolutely.
Just growing pains now, yeah.
Talking about pains, I wonder, what are your biggest challenges? Because you're creative entrepreneurs, you're not running a regular small business. Must come with its own set of challenges.
I think, one of the things for us has been funding, and it's just learning what are the different options for us as filmmakers. And we had very generous support with 5TV1 on this, but we learned also that there are sponsorships we can pursue. There are grant opportunities. So I think as we've gone through the series, we've learned more about the different ways that, of course, we are not at the scale of the Paramount Pictures, but we're learning about the different ways that they put funding together, that we could access different funding options as well through grants, through grants or sponsorships or.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Ray?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. Storytelling I mentioned earlier is, being able to tell the story the way that you really want it to land. I found challenging, and it's been more of a process. And as we learn, we'll probably get better at that, of course. But the story that we've started with is not the story we ended up with, and in sometimes very surprising ways. And I'm happy with, as we've told the stories, how they've played out. But as we try to perfect the craft, because we don't want to go in, we want to be able to create a repeatable kind of process that we can do. We did 4 episodes. If we did another 4 episodes, we don't want it to take as long as it took for the first 2. And so we want to be able to get better at that process. And so really being able to go through that, all the steps that we went through, but in a more efficient way, and get to the story, because I'm quite sure, well, I know I did. I did a lot during the editing process, and so I talked about earlier of getting every frame right. But, if I do that and then I ditch that whole thing, I've now spent hours trying to get a cut really good to throw away that work, right? Yeah. And so the better we get at that and do things I'm learning to do things in a better order. So by the time I'm doing those frame level edits, those are the frames that are going to be in it, right? And so it's that part, like learning how to make that more efficient. It's a learning process, but I think we're getting there.
And repeatable processes too, like on the production side too. Like neither of us had ever done a shot list before. Neither of us had ever, pulled together a weekend of filming and organized that. And now that we've done it, we know what to expect. We know now that plans can change very quickly when you're out on a shoot, and if there's weather or if there's you're not able to access a site for the shot that you want, you have to adapt very quickly. So we now know to expect that, to expect the unexpected, and we can be much more flexible, I think.
Is branding and marketing a challenge at all? I mean, many a times, you want to, you're confused between marketing your company and marketing yourselves as creative entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we're a little bit tied right now to the Midlife Mavericks, and we did that intentionally. When we started off, we were not planning on having an episode ourselves. We were planning on being able to create the context we needed early in each episode with that opening role, and then that would be it. We needed to fill one spot. We had one that didn't work out, so we had to fill it. And so we were always our backup. We knew if we had to pull something together quickly. So ours was the last one we filmed, but it's the first one that went out. And I don't know if people noticed, but we created a kind of almost like the opening credit roll that you'll see on an episode on TV, and we put that at the end of ours, and we made it so that was not the opening, but it was almost like, so here you go with the series.
It's what's coming.
Yeah, and so we were not planning on being one of those episodes in the beginning, but it just worked out that way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because we have our company is Midlife Mountaineer. And so there, we've shared more content about ourselves, our lives. It's been a lot of us getting into filmmaking, climbing, and all those things. But Midlife Mavericks has kind of taken on a life of its own and could be something far beyond what we're doing. And so these are questions that we're thinking about now. When the large production companies do a film, they create a specific company for that film, own website, its own social media, and we are not doing that yet. But it's something that I think we will want to consider for the future, and so that because it does get a little confusing when you're trying to, we're posting Midlife Mavericks content on our Midlife Mountaineer site, and people wonder, who are you, Midlife Mountaineer, Midlife Maverick? I mean, they're similar enough, but. These are questions we're thinking about.
But the one thing that, kind of a reality about when you're doing productions is you're going to co-produce it with somebody else, and they call them co-pros. And it gets really complex with the structure because how do you both own it? And the easiest way is you create a company for that, right? And then that company owns that, and then you can deal with, dividends and things like that out of that. And so we haven't had to do that yet, but if we did a larger one where we brought in another production company, that's likely what we would do, and then we would produce it. But from our personal branding, Midlife Mavericks is its own entity within Midlife Mountaineer, which is our company. And so we have branding for Midlife Mountaineer, and so we continue to build the branding around that. We include that in the episodes. Midlife Maverick also has its own kind of sub-branding within those episodes, and we've tried to build that out as well so they can stand on their own or separate. If we had to pull that out and did some co-pro thing with it and took it larger, that I think would be okay. We would probably still have the Midlife Mountaineer show up in there as well as some other production companies, branding show up as well.
And I think, too, with the development stage that we're at, we want people to recognize us as Midlife Mountaineer Productions, our Midlife Mountaineer, because we have people coming to us to potentially work on projects as Midlife Mountaineer. Mm-hmm. But here's this series that we've done that we can show you, our portfolio.
Yes.
But yeah, as we were saying, as we take on bigger projects, work with others, separate branding, and that's going to be something we'll have to consider.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, you have been just wonderfully gracious and vulnerable in this conversation, and also certainly in your episode. I wonder, along that theme, can I ask, what is it like working together as a couple?
Glorious all the time.
Never a problem.
Never a disagreement. Never.
I believe that 100%.
Well, it's really been an extension because it kind of started with our climbing. It's in a way been an extension of our climbing. And we got into climbing at the same time together. And so when we go climbing, you belay each other, and you're literally putting your life in the other person's hand when you're climbing. And so we've done that together for those 10 years. And then this has kind of been a bit of a spin-off of that. And it just felt very natural. So, like everything, you have those challenging moments, but we've been able to divide the workload, I think, fairly well. And there's some overlap there which we need, especially when you have to set up a lot of equipment. We can both do it. And Jackie originally didn't know how to set up certain pieces the way they need to be set up, but she learned that over time. And then she does most of the interviews, as an example. So she takes on certain of the tasks, and I take on.
It just sort of naturally happened. Yeah. And, we work on story building together. We review footage together, but I've taken on more of the production side and Ray's directing, and it's worked really well. I think we have to make a really conscious effort to separate the relationship sometimes from the business, because it can become all one. And I think it's important to have time that's separate from, as much as we love it, it's important to have time that's separate from the business. That's just us time.
Yeah, sure.
That's so true.
A few healthy boundaries in there, hey?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we don't always get it right. Sometimes it's just all business all the time, and but then we kind of snap out of it and say,
have a date night.
Okay, we need to have a date night.
So guys, if you want to start a business with your partner, then start mountaineering first. Right? Right?
That's the key.
You'll know if it's going to work. It's going to...
If you fall too often, then maybe...
If you survive.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you?
Yes.
They can find us on our website, www.midlifemountaineer.com, on Instagram at Midlife Mountaineer. And our series Midlife Mavericks is currently streaming 24/7 on the 5 TV1 channel or app, Channel 1. And also we have a YouTube channel. And our first film, Prairie Ice Farmers, is up right now, in addition to the promo for Midlife Mavericks. So that's Midlife Mountaineer on YouTube. So we'd love if folks were subscribed.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I guess we can't let you guys go without asking our one customary question that we ask all our guests.
All our guests get this
All our
one.
guests,
Okay.
yes. So this is about sharing that one piece of advice that you would like to give the UM community members who's listening to you guys as creative entrepreneurs. What would that be?
I say look forward to the future, because it might be something completely unexpected. What you're doing in 15, 20 years might be just something you never thought was possible, which is what filmmaking and mountaineering has been for me.
Good one, yeah. Ray?
Yeah, I think you have to believe in yourself and then go for it. Like when we started rock climbing, we weren't sure. Like we did not like exposure. So now we're fine. And it's interesting. Like when we started off, being up high, we did not like at all. And now we are absolutely fine with it. And it's amazing how fundamentally to your core you can change that way. Mm-hmm. So if you can change in your core that way, you can change any other aspect of yourself. And so if you have an idea and you believe in it, you just got to, sometimes like Jackie said earlier, you have to say yes, and you just have to go for it. And you have to push through all the hard parts to get there, but believe in yourself and believe in your ideas.
Believe in yourself and keep your minds open.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's a great piece of advice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Ray and Jackie, thank you so much for joining us today on the Idea Start podcast. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you
so much for having us.
Thank you so much, guys. And by the way, you are our first filmmakers on the podcast.
Exciting.
So this was super exciting and super fun conversation.
I feel very honored.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you don't miss a new episode of the Idea Start podcast. Please connect with us and share your comments below. And let us know how the topics are resonating with you and what guests would you like to see featured.